Hello and welcome to the third edition of the Acsom Bulletin. And this is a welcome to all of yous. Those who are catching us live, those who are watching us on catch up, and those who always seem that we forget about JP that listen on audio now. Our audio numbers are going back up and up as well. And these are the type of guys that listen to us when they're out walking the dog or coming in for work and all of that. And I sometimes think we forget the folk listening to us on audio and we're very live. We're very live based, so I welcome everybody. This is a sonic hug for you all. Obviously, my name's Kevin Graham, and as usual, on a Thursday we are joined by JP Mason. JP, how are you just now?
Well, not as usual, because it feels like I've only missed like 1 week, but it feels like it was ages ago that I was on this. So apologies for the slight tardiness if anybody's getting uptight about the fact that we were maybe about 30 seconds late going live, but yeah, that was my
well, let's just let everybody know there was almost a point where I'm going to need to run for an hour myself here. I was sitting here going, there was nearly a message put on the Acsom WhatsApp going, can anybody jump in? Because I can't talk for myself. I can't talk to myself for an hour on that. But you're here now. How's things? So it was only, were you listening last week then, aye?
Yeah, I was in Warsaw. I went to see Metallica in Warsaw.
Oh, magic.
So it was some experience going to the Polish National Stadium to see, well, basically one of my favourite bands of all time. I've loved them since I was a wee guy. There's plenty of t-shirts, pictures of me cutting about Metallica t-shirts when I was a wee guy in Falkirk and Bathgate. But it was an amazing experience. Warsaw is a great city. I had never really spent a lot of time there before. I'd been there for a mate's wedding about 6-7 years ago, and didn't really get to explore the city as much as I'd like to. But three and a bit days there this time, and what a place, and not actually that expensive as well. Still, even now, you know, there's always been the thing that's said about Poland is it's really cheap to have a night out and go for dinner and everything else, and thankfully it's still the case. Even now, it still feels like a kind of like a bit of a hidden gem almost in Europe for a place to go. So yeah, highly recommend it. Maybe not Metallica is it to everybody's taste, and I understand that, but they are to me, and what a night it was.
Good. I mean, I think that's a music chat in early. There's folk in the comments going, that's a music chat done. Probably will only be. I'm going to bring this by Brendan, and I didn't want you to do it, but just to let you all know, I've heard JP doing an impression of me, and it's probably more me than so I have actually heard it. I didn't want to do it because the next time you meet him at an Acsom night, ask him to do it when he's had a couple of pints in him, and he'll probably do an impression of myself.
If I did that, it'd be like Marty McFly meeting himself. And
It'll be Back to the Future, ain't it? Hiking and biking, how long did Primal Scream get mentioned? Well, we'll mention them now. They're not up to much at this precise moment in time, but yeah, we'll just mention them.
I saw Bobby Gillespie walking by Central Station about 2 weeks ago. I had no idea where he was going. He wasn't dressed in his usual kind of gothic vampire attire. He had like a pair of sambas on, so I've no idea what he was up to, where he was going. But yeah, he just
I'll take the sambas. I'm partially a pair of sambas myself.
I am too, but I didn't think he was. Pretty cool.
And Paddy Laverty comes in. Kev, start it early. I didn't want to miss the bonfires. What will do, Paddy? We'll try and keep it to the hour so you can go and get a front row seat to wherever you're going to watch your bonfire activity tonight. It's actually my wife's birthday tomorrow. My wife's birthday's on the 12th of July, so I like to think that they're lighting bonfires in celebration of her birthday, but I'm sure that is not really the case.
You've seen the Limmy skit? You need to watch the Limmy skit where he basically talks about how there's a tradition in Glasgow where we dress up all the dafties and the fools, and force them to march through the streets in orange uniforms and bang drums and stuff. It's 2.5 minutes of comedy genius, as far as I'm concerned. But
since you weren't here last week, you might have heard that Paul was doing in London for the Jimmy Johnston charity seven-a-side tournaments between CSCs, which are based in the south of England. So he's came up with this idea that he wants to take an Acsom select down next season to play, and next year to play, no next season, next year to play. So, JP, if I was to ask you, what type of player were you? How would you sell yourself to the gaffer and make sure that you're on that plane, train, bus, car, or whatever it is to make that seven-a-side tournament next year?
Can't believe you've actually asked that question, given that you don't really know what that strip is behind me and the reasoning behind you. You've got any idea? We didn't get any chance to speak before we came on here today. So
no, we didn't, no.
So you've got no idea what that top is. So that's the top that I wore when I scored the hat-trick at Celtic Park for the Football Aid charity, which is on the shoulder. And the signatures on it are, my player manager was Joe Miller and my opposition player manager was Danny McGrain. So scored the hat-trick at Celtic Park, so I can put that in my CV. Not that that's relevant, but yeah, I guess I played. God, the folk that I play football with on a Tuesday were probably like, yeah, the guy's a maniac. Don't pick him, but I just don't like getting beat. A couple of weeks ago we were playing and my team was getting beat like 5-0, and I just looked around and the rest of my team were just sort of pulling out of tackles, and I just lost it. I was like trying to pull them up off the canvas, and we got it back to 2 at one point, but then in the end we got beat before, I think it was, and yeah, I don't like getting beat at football. Let's put it that way. And
so you're a midfielder then. You're a tenacious midfielder that would drag people up with their socks.
Yeah, I used to have a bit of pace. I still like to think I've got a bit of pace, but in reality, when you're playing against folk that are 10, 15 years younger than you soon realise you don't have that same pace. But yeah, I like being on the wing. But I'm by no means a great footballer, but I think my passion for football certainly comes out when I'm playing. That's for sure.
I think by the way it's gone, by the way people are actually speaking, I think we've got a team of goalkeepers. the way things are gone. For folk asking what I'm Pat Nevin. I'm the wee righteous winger who doesn't do much and will just listen to full LPs all day. That's
Do you still play? You still play, Kev?
I play walking football now on a Friday night.
Oh, aye.
My knees can't handle running about anymore, so I play walking football. But unlike you, I kind of laugh at things. If things are going up and folk have been rubbish, I just sort of laugh at things. I'm mainly the one that's usually been rubbish, right enough, but that's, and I just laugh at myself because it's quite funny. I do find it quite funny, but some folk, there has been a couple of folk they take it quite serious, and they get annoyed a bit, but I just laugh at it.
The experience of playing, even just getting on the pitch to warm up at Celtic Park was unbelievable, and to come on the whole of the second half and to come on and to score I won a penalty and scored 2 for open play, and I replay that in my head so many times just because it's something I never ever thought I would do, and almost had the chance to do it again a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a month ago. My mate texted me and said that there might be a spot in a game, like a JD Sports game that was at Celtic Park, but then it got called off. Not sure why. Maybe, I don't know, some building materials hadn't arrived in time or something, I don't know. But
was there a crane on the pitch?
There may well have been, I don't know. But it was a gutter, because I would have loved to have had the opportunity again, but if I only do that once in my life, then I'll be more than happy, because it was a dream come true to play on the pitch. My team won 11-1, so if there's anybody watching that played in that game, May 2011 it was, and the away team in that strip beat the home team 11-1, and it was a massacre.
I've been lucky enough to stand at the touchline at Celtic Park. It's some size of pitch. That would scare me to go on that and actually try to run.
Well,
because
when I started to running it, my mate was like playing up front. He'd played the whole first half, and then the second half he was like, "I'm done. I've got nothing left." It was like, "I'll just hold it up for you and lay it off, and you can run onto balls." So that's exactly what happened, and that's how I got the goals, was him holding it up and laying it off for me. But yeah, as soon as you start running from the halfway line, you're like, "Oh my god, there's so far to go." To get to the penalty box, So,
I see. Playing football is not as easy as we like to make it out here every week talking about it. So last night, Celtic played volley hockey back Queen's Park in a friendly at Lesser Hampden. It's a strange stadium, Lesser Hampden. It looks like just a waste of steel, and the steel could have been used elsewhere in Glasgow. Look, the result was, if you really bother about these type of things, I didn't really bother about the results because they're just glorified fitness exercises. Was Celtic beat the Spiders of Glasgow 6-4 in a 10-goal thriller. One it will live long in the memory of those who actually watched it and those in attendance. Our goals were scored by Kyogo, Matt O'Reilly, and a debut goal for Francis Turley. Hopefully I've got his name right there. And all 22 players got a run out. But Daniel Kelly wasn't in the squad though, which has been quite interesting the last two games. Doesn't matter what we say, the manager wasn't chuffed with elements here. He says, it's all about fitness. There were lots of elements of the first half that I wasn't happy with, especially with some of the guys that should understand the game better. That's a right dig at the experienced players that are on the park there. Our pressing was nowhere near the level of what I would expect, and that's what I says at half-time. We played better in the second half. You expect some little mistakes and things can happen in a game, but overall, you still see we have a long, long way to go in the pressing side of our game, but also there was some pleasing moments in the game as well. None more so than the second half and young Francis Turley coming into the game. I've only seen him in the last few days, which I find interesting as well. Obviously, he's just made the wee step up, and you can see he's a football player, which is lucky because he's a professional football player. So I would hope he would look like a football player at that level. He does some wonderful things with the ball and has a natural instinct to get into the box. I was really pleased for him in that final half hour, but overall, another good exercise and another step up for us from the other night. I didn't watch pre-season friendlies. I didn't pay much attention to them. And right away, 30 minutes after the final whistle last night, we get to the point that Mikey Johnston's do the great green and white hope again after the 30 minutes of football. Did you watch it, JP, or were you like the rest of us keeping one eye on the European semi-final?
No, I was working a show last night with an Australian artist called Ian Moss. Great guitarist, great singer. I mean, he's massive in Australia. He's in a band called Cold Chisel, who probably are not well known over here, but I think they play like arenas and stuff in Australia. So yeah, I was doing a show with him. I managed to see about 10 minutes of the England game, which unfortunately included their winning goal. Great goal it was as well. But no, I don't have Celtic TV. I'm not actually entirely sure how Celtic TV works. Like, can you get it in the UK and just like watch it?
You can get a pass for the pre-season games.
Right. Okay. Right. So, like the pass to paradise.
Yes.
I give everybody PTSD about that because I certainly didn't enjoy 1 minute of that. Not least because of the football we were playing that season and everything else that happened. But no, I didn't see it, unfortunately. And I've not seen any of the goals, so I can't comment on that. Hopefully that doesn't make me any less of a Celtic fan to anybody in the comments. But yeah, I didn't see a pre-season friendly behind closed doors at Queen's Park last night, so I can't comment on the quality of play. I saw the lineup and I was like, wow, there's, as Paul pointed out earlier this morning, there's a lot of players involved last night that you would not expect to be involved in the Celtic squads come August and beyond, just because, I mean, Kobayashi didn't feature at all last season. scores a goal last night. Mikey Johnston was out on loan last season, comes on last night. I don't know if he played well. Do you know anything about how he played?
Well, I don't know anything about, only what I read, that the final whistle went last night, and obviously I didn't watch the game anyway. My wee fella's got an ear infection, so he wanted to watch Avengers Assemble. So I had the England game on a tablet there, and I was watching Avengers Assemble on the thing. I mean, big green Hulks. That's my Celtic credentials. I was watching a big green Hulk. So I wasn't really paying attention. So after the game, I had a look. Obviously, you got Celtic News Now. Celtic News Now, and the first article that was actually there was, "We need to have a conversation about Mikey Johnston." And I was like, here we go again. This is Groundhog Day. I didn't need to actually watch the game or read this article to know what this article is actually going to say. I did actually read it, and it did say exactly what I thought about. I think I'm getting interference with the mic. It did actually say exactly what I thought it was going to say. That Johnson played well for 45 minutes. He showed some promise. He showed some good runs. And again, that we're going to need to have a conversation about him. And I've got nothing against Mikey Johnston, but we've had this conversation too many times now. And for the sake of the boy's career, he's got to move on.
You'd think so, yeah. I mean, I can't see a world where Mikey Johnston is the starting winger for Celtic week in, week out. If we want to play at the level that we all hope we can going forward, I just can't see it, because it was the attempt was there last season. He got a run and he just didn't look up to it, and then he finds his level in the Championship, scores some goals, gets Player of the Month or whatever else. And I was happy that was the case for him. I'd never want him to not do well. Of course I would, but I want Celtic to do well more than I want Mikey Johnston to do well. And I don't see Celtic progressing with him as a first team player, which is surely at this stage of his career what he wants. You know, you would think at 25, is he 25?
25 now, aye. So he's no longer. It's him and Stephen Welsh. Yeah, Stephen Welsh is no longer can be classed as a promising youngster at 24 years old.
The thing is Stephen Welsh happy to be an Anthony Ralston type player who's just there to be called upon? Is Mikey Johnston happy to be that player? Having played week in, week out in the Championship, I would doubt that very much. So I just think that, like you said, we've had this conversation many times before. It'd be interesting to know the conversations that's been had between the manager and Mikey Johnston, because they'd have to be, honest and, genuine about like where he lies in the manager's plans going forward. Because if he was willing to let him go, although there was chat that he didn't want to let him go in January, I think I heard that in an article or read that in an article. But if he doesn't want him, if he was willing to let him go, which he did, at a crucial point in Celtic season where we really needed all the artillery that we could call upon to, win the league from a difficult position where we were at one point, where we were behind the 8 ball. Mikey Johnston wasn't needed in that time, so why is he needed now? I would surely think that there'd be plans to move him on. If Mikey Johnston is here when the transfer window closes, then questions have to be asked about his desire, the manager's commitment to him as a player in terms of how he sees him within the squad, and what is his agent doing. He's surely the best opportunity for Mikey Johnston to get a move right now is off the back of a really good run of form in the Championship, where clubs are looking at him. Numerous clubs are looking at him with a view to bringing him back to that league where he can continue where he left off.
You would think so, and I think the club have backed themselves into a corner. I mean, you know me, I'm no great lover of the Celtic board. We've backed ourselves into a corner where the Celtic media, the grifters in the Celtic media, are that desperate for any sort of news that within half an hour of a Celtic game ending, they're talking about Mikey Johnston. And you're going, that's because there's nothing else for them to talk about. There's nothing else there because we've got no new signings. Rodgers is coming out and saying the same things time and time again, and also these things are just basically fitness issues. That's it. They're just to get teams up to fitness. I'm going to go through a couple of the comments that came in with guys who actually watched the game. I mean, maybe we should have done our homework and watched the game, but I'm not going to make any apologies for no watching the Celtic game.
I mean,
I'm not going to make any, and I will tell you that I won't watch the game against DC United, Man City, or Chelsea either, because I just won't. I long for the time I'm going to be a tourist in my youth, as Sick Boy says, and Train Spotting too, and go. I pine for the days where you only found out that Celtic were playing pre-season games at the bottom of the Daily Record when you saw the score, when we had beat Celtic, Forest Mechanics 5, Celtic 0, and you go, oh, that's a strange result. You didn't even ken who was playing. But I want to go back to that days, because the commercialisation of these pre-season friendlies for me just is no one. I didn't like it. But again, that's just me being a moaning-faced middle-aged guy. But there we go. And MJ bang average performances. Welsh, Kobayashi, Iwata and Kwon poor as well. I thought O's goal was all right. I did actually see his goal. I watched it on a certain Twitter site that shows you Celtic goals. So that's where I saw that. Sean says MJ was okay, dribbling was all right, was okay, but pressing wasn't his greatest. Goes back to what Brendan says, that he wasn't too happy with the pressing in the first half. Marty McKay, the fact that we're still talking about Mikey Johnston says it all, and I completely agree with that. And Tony Cassidy, Bosun and Dane both decent again. Right. I would have put money on Friday night that Bosun Loau was going to get rave reviews no matter what he did. As soon as he made that appearance in that Celtic jersey, he was going to get a rave review. I just think, and that's not to say that he didn't play well, but I've got a big as desperation as anybody for the young guys to break into the Celtic team. I really do. You have a look at nation tournaments, and you have a look at the amount of sides that have actually battered us in Europe over the last couple of years. And we look at your Copenhagens, you look at your Fenerbahces and clubs like that. The bottom line is they've got a core of homegrown players that are better talents than the ones that we're producing. And if we want to progress in Europe, our core of homegrown players we've got to produce better homegrown players or hold on to the homegrown players. So that means for me that Boss and Daniel Kelly, folk like that are on the fringes of the team, have to come in. They have to stay in and around the first team squad. And us as Celtic fans have maybe got to bite the bullet that these young lads are going to make mistakes while they get up to the speed of playing for Celtic. And I don't think as a support we've got the patience for that. We've already seen it's a pre-season friendly, and you actually see guys getting written off right away. He's Roberts, no good enough. He needs to go there. He needs to go there. They need to go to St Johnstone. I think we can qualify talk about Mikey Johnston because he's 25 and go, it's time for him to move on. But to actually chuck guys like Bosun Loau, Dane Murray, and all of that, and even Daniel Kelly underneath the bus already before they haven't even got their feet under the carpet is wrong. And I do think as a club we need to actually start integrating these young guys into the squad and produce better calibre of players. That's how I was really interested with Rodgers' comments about the young Turley. The fact that he's just seen him over the last couple of days, that kind of struck me as bizarre.
Maybe he just meant like up close and personal in terms of
maybe aye, but just the way it comes across, I'm like, that's a bit bizarre.
Aye, it's like he's just turned the page on a book or something. But
aye, or he's appeared like Paddy McCourt appeared in front of Gordon Stratton and go, who are you? Like Desmond Simon.
Well, obviously the fact that these players are being used in games like this, but they're also being used alongside players that definitely seem to be out of the picture in terms of the manager's thoughts? I mean, you're not going to try and tell me that Kwon is going to be featuring for Celtic this season. Surely, like, that's not going to be a thing. Like, I just can't. How can a guy that was out on loan for the whole of last season? It was the whole of last season, wasn't it? You go season-long loan at St Mirren. I don't know. He didn't do anything in that time at St Mirren that means he's coming back to Celtic as this wholly rounded player. Yes, he's got experience of playing in the league and everything else, but I just don't. How is he going to displace your midfield? Is Matt O'Reilly, Callum McGregor, and Rayo Hatate? How is Kwon getting into that side? It's just not happening. Obviously, there's the elephant in the room. Matt O'Reilly attracting interest from various different clubs in various different countries. The Paulo Bernardo deal seems to be edging ever closer. I just don't see how a guy like Kwon is going to get any game time at Celtic. Iwata as well might struggle.
I mean, you have a look at it, right? I go back to Christopher Ayer. I can't remember him pulling up many trees when he was at Kilmarnock. When he was there, when he went there and got experience, and also he came back a far better player when he came in. I can remember Ryan Christie was Aberdeen's main player when he was at Aberdeen, and when he came back and go up, well, he could actually make it a decent goal. So I'm not quite willing to write off Kwon at the moment as one that will go right back out on loan, because sometimes he's played quite a bit of football now in the Scottish Premier League, which is unfortunately where we actually do play football. So he might know what's needed of him now. He looks tall. He looks a tall guy, and he looks like he can actually get about the pitch quite well. Actually, it looks like he's got a good range on him. I just wonder if you can maybe you'll see a lot of these guys over pre-season, because the three guys that you mentioned there, we know what they can do. And while we didn't get much enjoyment or learn much from pre-season games, we're not the ones that need to learn about the players for pre-season games. That's up to the manager and the coaching staff. And it's them that will make the decisions. It's not going to be us that's making the decisions, because they're probably looking for complete and utterly different things from us. I mean, you could, if you were a tabloid writer, you would go, Celtic struggle against Queen's Park and ship 4 goals.
I mean, I already read an article that said that this morning. Not very much, yeah. There was the tail end of the headline was intimating that, you know, a disaster that we conceded the goals and everything else, and you're just like, it was a basically behind closed doors training ground game at Lesser Hampden. There's no way, even if we'd lost the game last night, I don't think I would have been coming on here with my trousers on fire, you know, worrying about the season ahead. I don't think you can read anything into it. It was essentially a bounce game, not in any way featuring our first team. Like, look at how many players were missing from that lineup last night. You've got Alistair Johnson still out in Canada with Canada and the Copa America. The Scottish players are being rested, obviously, on the back of the Euros. We've not got a goalkeeper. But we have a goalkeeper. We have a couple of goalkeepers, but not a Joe Hart, not a number one. The concern for me is going into these games in the States with no new signings. I think that's a concern. Not a kind of running around screaming about it, but how could you not get signings in time to go to the States? It might well happen. There's still time between now and the flight leaving, I'm sure, and obviously there's the option of people going out to fly out to join the club, but that's the time when you integrate new players. That's always been the case.
And this is it. We're going to go to the States, right? We're going to the States. And the games are going to take care of themselves out in the States. It's a PR exercise. The players are going to get minutes. We'll likely get defeated by Man City and Chelsea reserve and youth sides to massive audiences across there. And then our focus will turn to Derek McInnes, that perma-tangoed hipster, facial haired, dressed like a divorced accountant, bringing his Kilmarnock to Celtic Park to play no football whatsoever. They're going to come in. We know what Kilmarnock are going to set up. McInnes is not going to turn this team into the swashbuckling Spanish side that we've seen in these Euros. Now, this could actually happen. And if you went to the bookies, the odds on this happening would probably be really, really, really short. And the reason it'd be really, really short, they'll be as wee as wee Shaqiri, that'll be Swiss boy, pumping wee. The bookies would probably say this was odds on. Because of our perceived uselessness and amateurness at getting transfer deals done, we could play Kilmarnock with no new signings in the starting 11 or squad. We could. And we may make signings over the next 3 weeks between that game, but there's things that can actually, guys need to settle in, right? The guys need to settle in. If we've got a goalkeeper who has been at the Euros, he's on holiday for the next 10 to 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
Then he'll go to the States. So that means he'll come in the week leading up to Kilmarnock. The chances are that he's not going to get chucked into that Kilmarnock game because he hasn't had the pre-season. He hasn't got to ken his teammates yet. There's a slim chance that he's going to play that game. We are starting that game with Scott Bain or Segrist because the keeper would have to be in now.
But by the way, I completely thought, from what I read, Segrist was long gone. Did not come out saying I'll never go back there. And
he's under contract though, and he got told you're getting back.
But that's pretty bad. If he has actually said that to a journalist and then he has to sort of meekly come back with his tail between his legs and put his training gear on and get out and work for the employer that employs him, it's a bit of a weird situation. But
it's like phoning him for a sickie, then the boss phoning you going, no, you're coming in.
Aye, exactly. No, but the keeper one for my mind is the most frustrating because we've known since January that Joe Hart was leaving. Like, how is that not the first pair of feet that walks in that reception at Celtic Park? How is the goalkeeper not being identified and signed, sealed, and delivered? I don't buy into this idea that the Euros has caused a bit of a bump and everything. Like, you find out who wants to come, you agree terms with the club, and you have the guy lined up to come in.
If you look at
maybe I'm being naive, but that just seems to make sense to me.
I can understand. I mean, some of the guys that have been looked at, that by under Martin Dubrovka. The linked with, was it Moldovan, the Romanian goalkeeper as well. They were all at the Euros. So they will have an extended break after the Euros, which means that any negotiations anything that has to get signed and sealed might take a wee bit longer because they have been at the Euros. But yesterday, young Patrick informed us that it's been over 170 days since Joe Hart told us he was chucking the game of football, that he was retiring. If you would have told us then that we would be closer to discovering the Loch Ness Monster and Celtic signing a goalkeeper 170 odd days later, I would actually called you a mentalist. I mean, we'll have a goalkeeper all signed and sealed before that, but here we are. And this is where we are. We're still nowhere near signing a goalkeeper. And the one that we keep on continually getting linked with, Peter Vindal Jensen, we've basically been told that Sparta Prague are not going to sell him. They've made that quite clear. They're not going to sell him, but if they are going to sell him, it's not going to be at the end of August. Today, see what is happening with the Champions League. I mean, there's an article by the Daily Record, and I'm going to read it out here. It says Celtic have reportedly been sent signals by Sparta Prague. I don't care if that's bat signals or anything like that, carrier pigeons or whatever. They've been sending signals. Maybe they've been sending me like crabbit face emojis or something like that on faxes. However, it is claimed the door could be open to a deal following the Czech side's push for the Champions League group stage. So on one hand, they're telling us they're saying no, but on the other hand, they're going, aye, it might happen. He's 26. He's the club's top target. It's understood that Vindal Jensen sees Celtic as a party making a move to the English Premier League, as well as giving him a better chance of breaking into the Danish national side. You might need to have a conversation with Matt O'Reilly about that. But Sparta Prague are keen to keep the star that they only signed permanently in March. They signed him permanently in March. Czech outlet iSport claim that the club have repeatedly sent signals that they're unwilling to sell. Now, Sparta have lost their manager to Feyenoord, they've lost their captain to Girona, and they didn't want to lose any more because they want to try and qualify for the Champions League for the first time in 19 years. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong here. I might be on the wrong page here. I think it's time to put this deal out as misery. This deal absolutely stinks. It's like an old pepper in a car. There's just too many obstacles to get this deal done. And if this was your number one target, it's like playing darts blindfolded with Joy Division oven gloves on. It completely misses the target. There's easier targets than this guy. There's too many hurdles with this guy who, if this is your number one, are you willing to wait to the end of August till his club decide, we're not getting that Champions League money, we're going to take him? It's a too desperate situation for us to wait that long, to wait that far. If we're chasing this boy, right, and if this is your number one target, the possibilities increasing us signing a Martin Dubrovnik type on a 2-year deal, why we flap about in the background trying to get our long-term goalie over the next couple of transfer windows. Because if he is your long-term target, we're not getting him for the start of the season. We will only wait till August, and we will need to sign another stopgap. And I reckon that somebody like Dubravnik, I can't say that, is probably our plan B if this guy doesn't go. And at the moment, this guy, if Peter Vindal Jensen is the goalie that we want, there's no way that he's there for the start of the season. He's not there. He's probably rocking up just before we play Rangers. And I'm a blue £8 million on him.
But you would imagine that we would need to sign 2 keepers, because do you really see Benjamin Seagus being a Celtic player post August 31st? I don't. He might be back in a training ground game against Queen's Park last night, maybe back in the squad for that. But given the comments he's made, his lack of participation in squads or games even last season, like, why would he suddenly have a change of heart and be like, oh, well, actually, I'll stay and fight it out to be the number one? I would expect him to go, which then leaves you with another keeper's jersey to fill. But wouldn't it be fascinating to know, I know it's obviously no chance we'll find out, but wouldn't it be fascinating to know what Celtic's process of goalkeeper scouting has been in those 170 days? Who was our number one? Was it Livakovic, the guy out in Turkey that we went for previously? Is it Vindal? Who has been? Where have we gone? Have we had a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've hit 1, 2, 3, and then we're down to 4? It's so frustrating. I know it's like playing Football Manager or whatever, and you don't just click a button and sign a goalie, but my God, we don't have to make things difficult for ourselves in terms of preparation for, we don't have Champions League qualifiers, thankfully, but we do have the Champions League on the horizon, and you just want us to be in the best position that we can be in. And look, we could go out and sign a couple of players tomorrow or the start of next week, and suddenly this conversation is made to look.
We could have the goalie already there. It's just that he's doing something else. There's a couple of loose ties to get, of things to get tied up, and it could look really, really stupid. But we can only go on the reports. And the guy who wrote that in the Daily Record has got quite a few Celtic things right. So you've got to go, that's coming from somewhere of a bit of, like, with a bit of substance. But I'm looking at it going, let it go. Let it go. There's too many hurdles getting this boy in the door that you actually need. So you've got to have another target. You've got to have another target there, because if you didn't, it's bad scouting. As you say, we could sign we could sign 2 or 3 players, no problem, right? The only guys that we seem to get done are young players who see us as a stepping stone and want to come for mere wages at their own when they see us as a stepping stone to the English Championship, bottom half of the English Premiership. They just seem to be the type of deals that we get done quite easily. But now that we've stepped up a bit, we're getting told, oh, you need to be a bit patient. Maybe we just can't deal like a big football club. Maybe we just can't deal with players that other clubs want.
I am a little bit concerned about the fact that when Ange Postecoglou was here, the agencies that we were dealing with, or the agent that we were dealing with, Frank Tromboli, everything I've heard about those deals were all kind of like, well, he would just say to him, get this done, and it would get done, because agents in any business are quite bullish, and the ones that have got the more weight and the power in the game get things done a lot quicker. Like if a band wants to play a festival and they've got a powerful agent, that'll happen. If they don't have a powerful agent, they're not getting anywhere near that festival bill. And
that's why the Celtic Cross Collective haven't got any gigs. We haven't got an agent. We need an agent.
A manager, an agent, all the rest of it. Aye. So these things matter, and they matter they clearly matter in football as well, because the more weight you've got as an agent, the more clout you've got when it comes to getting moves for your players. You know, clubs will listen to agents that have got an influence in the game, and it seems that Frank Tromboli certainly has that, and I don't think we are doing business with him anymore. I might be wrong on that, but that's I'm led to believe.
Well, he's in that CAA base group, who Matt O'Reilly is under, Lewis Palmer is under as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we will do business with Mr. Tromboli again very, very soon.
I certainly hope so.
Because I think they're getting to a case now. I think they're getting to a point now where we will be dealing with recommendations for agents.
If that is the case, and we are at that point, then that's a sad state of affairs. Because let's not forget, we still don't know who the head of recruitment is at Celtic. We don't know who's doing what. There's no. I guess Mark Lawwell became the sort of face of the, oh, well, it's Peter Lawwell's son. Of course, we're making a pig's ear of it, and we're not willing to spend the money when clubs are asking for an extra $1 million. Like, say it's the Adam Eder signing, like, folk are already saying, oh, well, of course we're not going to get him, because Norwich will be saying we want $6 million, and Peter Lawwell will say, no, here's 3.5 million, and which is probably complete nonsense. Norwich, I don't know where they're at in terms of that deal. The noises are that Adam Eder wants to come to Celtic. So if you've got a willingness from the club and the player, then surely it's not that hard to meet in the middle to agree on something. But part of me is wondering whether or not we're doing the poker hand and just letting them play their hand and get all their signings in, and then we just turn around and make our signings and make our point. I hope that is the case, but it's frustrating as someone who invests in the club. You obviously you want to see that investment back, and you certainly don't want to see us at the end of the transfer window with the same amount of money in our bank account for transfers available as we do right now. Because what's the point? What is the point? How are we ever going to progress? I'm not asking us to go and sign like £15 million players, but there has to be a shifting. Like Brendan Rodgers said, it's up to him to persuade the people that spend the money to maybe move up a bracket in terms of who and what we sign.
Liam Devine, if Jensen is the goalie we want, pay the money or go and get someone else. Stop trying to pay 6 million or 8 million for players. Sparta Prague are in the sort of position that we were in with Virgil van Dijk, where everybody knew Virgil wanted to leave. Then we waited until we were papped out the Champions League, then Celtic the last couple of days of the transfer window. So Sparta Prague are quite right to dig their heels in, because they're going, well, we didn't want to sell this guy until we know what our budget is for the following season. That's exactly what we've done time and time again. But I agree, I think it's time to... It's a position of desperation. It's a position of need. It should have been sorted long before now. And if we can't wait to mid-August to actually get a goalkeeper in through that door. David Stalker comes in and says, I would go for Dubravka, easier to get done. That's how it'll probably end up getting done, because it is easier to get done. And we will just be in the background trying to find our long-term goalkeeper. For then, we're getting at the board at tight, but they bring it on themselves, when you get to this point and you're going, well, you're deserving this flack. This might age badly, and I really, really hope it does age badly. But history shows it probably won't age badly.
The thing is, you remember the whole Sharks in the car park thing after the Ross County game. Like, there was no part of me at that night that had any desire to go anywhere near Celtic Park because of the fact that we were in a pandemic lockdown and doing things like that. Even if we hadn't been in a lockdown, I wouldn't have that night decided to go along to Celtic Park. But they're going to have that's going to seem like playground stuff if money isn't spent this summer. If serious money isn't spent, i.e. you're looking at a Celtic team and squad at the end of this transfer window that is significantly better than what we finished up with last season and what we started with last season. It just has to be that case. I don't know how we're looking at a future where that isn't the case, because I would say quite rightly the support would be entitled to fling sharks and other objects as long as no one was getting hurt. But there would definitely be a right to protest, because it's just absurd that we could possibly go into the last week of the transfer window having not spent money to strengthen the team. I mean, how could Brendan Rodgers stomach that? I mean, I would be livid if I was in charge of an organisation that had money to spend. We're not in some sort of hamstrung climate where we can't spend money. We can obviously spend money. There's no caps or anything. Obviously the FFP comes into play, but we make money ourselves. We don't rely on crazy benefactors in foreign countries to give us money. The money that's there is money that's been accumulated by the fans, merch, Champions League, player trading. It's all come in organically, hasn't it? It's not as if spending that money is going to get us in trouble or anything. We've got a free rein to just go and strengthen our squad. I know, and I get that bringing players to Scotland isn't the most attractive thing, but we've managed to do it before. Why can't we do it now? It's not as if the landscape in football suddenly changed so badly that Scotland is so far down or Celtic are so far down the pecking order when it comes to signing players. You're not going to try and tell me that we can't sell our club to a prospective, talent in Europe or wherever.
I think we can if they're at a certain level. But then when you try to get that level above, we struggle because in a league and the way that we do business, we're not used to doing business with players that are actually in demand with maybe clubs for bigger leagues or bigger stature and bigger leagues and stuff like that, or are looking to make that career move, which is maybe going to be, maybe they're 25, 26 and they're looking, this is going to be the move that makes my career. This is the biggest move I'm going to make in my career and I need it to be right. And I do think it looks like we struggle. Now we have to clarify that. I'm going to put it looks like we struggle to do that because we haven't brung anybody in at this precise moment in time. But as I say, I want to get proved wrong. I want them to prove me wrong. And as Strangelove the doctor says, don't panic, fellas. It's more important to get the right players than just
100%.
Stop us wondering. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, 100%.
Completely agree with that.
But at the same time, you don't want to end up with nobody. I'm not saying that we should just go and sign anybody, but it is really, really frustrating to be someone who goes to the games week in, week out, and you invest your money as a season ticket holder. You want the club to show a bit of faith back, because if we didn't have the money, if we didn't have Champions League football on offer, if there was that tightrope of a qualifier, the Champions League football itself should be able to sell it to a player who's maybe got a choice of 4 or 5 clubs, and then they go, right, well, I've got Champions League football guaranteed at Celtic. I'm going to play. I'm going to be the left back at Celtic, say, and become that guy, or I'm going to be the goalkeeper at Celtic and play number 1 in the Champions League. Those things should be big enough and good enough, aside from the fact that they're playing at a domestic level that clearly is not up to the level of other leagues, but it offsets each other, I would have thought, with the European versus domestic football. That you get that platform to play, as so many other players have had at Celtic in their time, that if you do the business, if Adam Idah comes and signs for Celtic and bangs in goals in the Champions League, what price does he become? You know what I mean? He did his price, and what window, what bracket does he go into as a striker? I mean, if he did, say Adam Idah signs for Celtic, comes in, scores 4 or 5 Champions League goals, which is not unrealistic given the level of competition that we are probably going to face in that now. We're not going to be playing PSG home and away, Bayern Munich home and away, Barcelona home and away. It's going to be, you would imagine, a little bit more of a sort of level playing field. So he comes in, scores goals at that level, we'd struggle to keep a hold of him.
We would struggle to keep a hold of them, and that's a gamble that we've got. That's the gamble that we have got to actually take. And we will meet Norwich in the middle. That will actually happen. The player says, by the way, I want to go to Celtic. Then he'll end up at Celtic. It's just when that is, the sooner the better. The same with Bernardo. Now, when I says there've been no new signings for the first game against Kilmarnock, I reckon Ida, and Bernardo could be in the squad, but the way these deals are sort of meandering along, it's just really, we didn't care what's going on in the background, but they just seem to be taking a time to get over the line. So they could be in the squad, but even if Ida does sign and goes to America, do I see him being in front of Kyogo for that first game of the season? No. The team that could be for the first game of the season, and I'm going to read this out, I'm going to really depress everybody. The team that could run out at Kilmarnock for the first game of the season is Scott Bain for Flag Day. It's Scott Bain for what we've just actually discussed. Maybe it could be too late to get a keeper in by now. Tony Ralston, because Alistair Johnson's deep run into the Copa America will mean that he comes back late, and I don't know when he'll probably meet up with the team in America, then have a week's training. He might not get thrown into the first game of the season, depending on how he looks. Liam Scales, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Greg Taylor, Calmack, Matt O'Reilly, Atati, Dyson, Kuhn and Kyogo. That could be the team that runs out on Flag Day. Now, John Lydon once says one thing on the stage in San Francisco. Did you ever get the feeling that you've been cheated? See, if that team ran out on Flag Day, I would sulk all the way home. If that team came out on Flag Day. But at this precise moment in time, that is a possibility. that team could run out at Celtic Park on Flag Day. That's madness.
And that sounds like we're being sort of snide to those players that are coming in to take up those positions, but I don't think it is. I think everybody realises there's a need for progression at the club and a need for bolstering a side that needs to be added to, like with quality. I mean, that's the word that's been used over and over again, isn't it? But I mean, there's no doubt about it. There needs to be an injection of quality into that first team, and that's a worrying thought that might be the case, that those guys might take to the pitch in that game, because that would be a strong indicator of where we'll be come the end of that month. And I really want to see us. I really want to see us in the Champions League, like, have a go, and we're not going to have a go with what we've got right now. We need so much more. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not expecting us to go out and spend 10, 15 million pounds on players in every position. That's just unrealistic. But be inventive, be creative, bring players to the table like Carter Vickers, bring players to the table like Jota, guys that you pay 5-6 million for and they come in and do the business for you. I mean, can't just put that down to luck. It wasn't just luck that we got Carter Vickers. It wasn't luck that we got Jota. These guys have clearly been scouted. They were given a season to be on loan to impress, and then we got the deals over the line. So those are they should be the poster boys for any potential signings coming in. They should be what we're holding up as, well, look, here's what you could do. Here's what you could experience. And you're not going to get that at a lot of other clubs, I mean, you always read articles about Jota, being down on his luck in Saudi Arabia. I'm sure he's not down on the luck when he goes to check his bank balance at the ATM, but as far as his actual, like, working life and sporting life is concerned, there's nothing surely he's done over there that comes close to even one of the goals that he scored at Celtic Park. Like the dink against Rangers, even just like the pass for Kyogo against Ferencváros. Like, there's so many things, the highs that he hit at Celtic, he's not come anywhere near to that out there. But you just don't know what. So that's what I'm saying, is like, you've had that experience, you've had that high. He would come back if we could financially make it work. But I just don't think there's any way we could possibly get. How could you get close to the wages that he's on? I mean, the thing is,
you're not going to get close. You're looking at him to do a Joe Hart and completely drop wages just to come and play football. Like, it would be a great sign. I think it would give the place a boost at this precise moment in time, because we all seem to be banging our heads against the wall regarding stuff. I can't see it happening. I just can't see it happening. But then again, who are we? I don't know. We're getting. I think I've upset quite a lot of what we're reading out that team. I think a lot of people are away for counselling. Paul Boza says, Kevin, that is more or less the team that won the double. No bad at all.
No, it's not. It's not.
It's standing still, and you've lost Joe Hart. And you've probably got Matt O'Reilly with one foot out the door. And that's standing still, which is bad for any successful football club or big club. It wants to be successful. We can't stand still, and at the moment it feels like we are standing still. But hopefully that will absolutely change.
Yeah, but the point there is, okay, that might be the bulk of the team that won the double, but it's also the bulk of a team that didn't qualify beyond the Champions League, that finally won a game in the Champions League when it didn't matter. We need more than that. We couldn't just go, oh well, okay, they won the double, so we'll just go with them. Like, that would be madness if we did that. Surely, like that, to just continue on and be like, it's fine, as long as we get domestic success. Obviously, I want domestic success like everybody else, but you want to keep the manager invested in this club. You want to, and doing well in Europe is definitely a factor in that. So, because just say Brendan Rodgers at the end of next season decides this isn't going anywhere, this isn't going where I want it to go. Thanks for the time. I've won you another league, won you another cup, maybe even done a treble, and then just goes, see you later. Who do we get as manager? Who do we get? Do you know what I mean? There isn't anybody waiting in the wings that I could put my money on and say, oh, he's the next Celtic manager. I don't know who the next Celtic manager is. So you want to keep the one that's here happy, and you don't want to put his nose out of joint at all in terms of mucking about with signings. And I don't want to hear him say Terminado in a conversation, put it that way. So yeah, we've got a manager who's got the tools, who's got the minerals. You need to give him the tools to do the job, and currently we're not doing that. We didn't do it last summer. That argument of last summer and it being about geared towards Ange, or they weren't Brendan signings or everything else, that's gone now. You can't go through the summer and be like everybody that comes in has to be the manager signing and a guy that he's put his name next to. And if we finish the transfer window with 4 or 5 players coming in that Brendan Rodgers has signed off on and he's 100% happy about, and there's no chatter, Lennon after a couple of very good. And there's no chat about we didn't do this or we didn't do that, or the players that have come in weren't up to scratch. It's got to be his players, and if it's his players and they don't work out, then that's kind of on him. But if he sanctions deals for a player at £5 million at left back or midfield or wherever, that's you want him to be the one that's making the mistakes and not anybody around about him.
Mm-hmm, definitely. I think we'll leave it there, JP. I think it really does feel like at this precise moment in time, Celtic are treading water. We're stuck in the sea looking at the cliff, and we're treading water, and hopefully that will change. Thanks to everybody in the comments. Thanks, JP, and just didn't be bams to each other. See you later.